Welcome to our first episode of Inside the Firkin, where we tackle consulting topics one at a time in a much easier and shorter uh, concept.
Nice.
So, yeah, so inside the Kirkin, those are smaller barrels than your normal size barrel or cask. They're 11 gallons. Um,
Mm.
so we're going to try to do these in a shorter, bite-sized manner where people can really look at it and learn faster with less commitment, right? Less time commitment because lives get busy, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm gonna hold you to this 5-10 minute mark, and we'll see how it goes.
All right, perfect. So what are we
Oh
doing
yeah,
today? We're doing scripting, another scripting patterns.
yeah. So we're essentially gonna continue from where we left off last time, and really
Okay,
kind of provide some opportunities for different strategies for people to uh, utilize different script includes. So
sounds good.
gonna we'll just jump right in. So
Yep.
this is a little bit different because I already did most of the work.
Oh, the
uh,
magic oven. I love it.
yeah. So for those that don't know, again, we're following this great article for by Travis called Interface Design Patterns for Script Includes. And we really talked a lot about class patterns last time, about how it's the default one. You could do a lot with it. And so today we're going to move on towards the function pattern. And essentially, what the function pattern is essentially just creating a function. So rather than anything in here, rather than all of the boilerplate that's there before, you just create one function, and you could pass in some variables, and then it does some things inside of it. And so some of the pros of that is it's very simple, right? Like it's just one function. You don't have to. Anyone that knows JavaScript will know what that function looks like. You can do a lot with it because it's just vanilla JavaScript in here. Obviously, with you could pass around functions or things like that. And what's also nice is these nested functions are private. So you truly no one can just call your function from here. They would have to call just the upper function. So this is kind of nice, a nice way to handle script includes. There are some downsides to this though. Organizationally, like imagine if every script include was one function, John. Like we
Oh my
would,
gosh.
uh,
Trying to keep track of that. Oh man.
yeah,
Ugh.
yeah, it would be rough. The other downside is you can't easily test nested functions. So like we did want to make this so it's easier to unit test. That was one of the premises that we had here. So it's kind of defeats some of that purpose if we can't really test it. Um, the good thing is ServiceNow actually has done that, and that was a terrible drag and drop. So if you wanted to ever look at code search, is an example of one that ServiceNow has out of the box. So here you can see here it's just one function, right?
Hmm.
So it is used in ServiceNow's production instances. So don't think that if you did use this, you're doing something terribly wrong. Um,
Sure.
Cool. So let's kind of hop into what this function is doing. So this function looks very similar. Rather than setting something to active, John, I changed it to locking them out.
Right.
So
Yep.
essentially what this function does is just calls lock out a user based on their sys ID. So within lockout, you have a function that's called lockout locked locked out user to check if they're locked out. And so we
Hmm.
have some print statements here. And then if they aren't locked out, then go and lock them out. Else return this random variable three.
Three. I think
Yeah,
we saw that last.
yeah. So that's pretty much all this function is doing. And so what we kind of want to go to is our handy dandy ATFs.
Yep.
And so inside our ATFs, so we created a function pattern unit test. And this one looks a little bit different as well. So essentially what we have is we have some variables here. So we're passing in whether someone's logged in or logged out, a first name and email, so we can easily see it. And so this is our test data. We have one user that is locked out, and I just named it locked out so we can easily see it, and one that isn't. And then for the test steps, we create a user, since now we don't want to be messing with data that already exists. So we create this user. We then, the magic happens in here. We run this test. So we're essentially pulling the step data from the created user above. So we want the sysid of that user we just created and this locked out. And then essentially saying if the user is locked out, so if we are locked out, we want to check if they check how many updates are on their record, and I'll go into why we do that. We then run we run this script. So this is what the function pattern here looks like, and note the difference. There's no new, right?
Yes.
So it does look different. And then we then check whether or not they were updated. And so the reason why we're doing it this way is for this function to run, we can't test all of the nested functions. So, and so what we want to check is how often is this thing modified? So if the user is already locked out, we don't want to actually modify their record, right? That would be inefficient. So what we're doing here is saying if the user, we first check what the mod count is, we run the function, and then we check what the mod count is after we ran that function, and then we check if they're equal. Because remember, I can't test functions within the function. I can only test the highest level function, and this highest level function returns, either the update or 3, right? So that's how we're essentially doing it. And then very similarly here, this one's a little bit different. We check the mod count, we then run the function, and then we check if the mod count increased by 1, right? Did we actually update the ticket, and are they now locked out?
Am I reading that right on 27? It says it. Is that supposed to be if, or is that an F? I can't tell.
Oh, so that's it. So that's Jasmine syntax. So for your unit test here, you describe is like the high level suite.
That's right.
And then the actual test is the it. So
okay.
So let's go and run this, and we'll actually debug it. And I put some breakpoints here. Again, shout out to San Diego. Really, really awesome release for ATS. So what's nice here is now my script is stopped. It did execute 1, right? And so let's check. Did we get a new user? And here's our new user. It's locked out.
There you go.
They're locked out. There's 0 updates on it. So we step over. So now we have run the function, right? So now that the function has run, we want to check what our data looks like. Still locked out and 0 updates. So we're thinking that our first use case was the locked out user is gonna be okay. So now we roll back that data, and that should pass. Awesome. And so now we check again, and we see now that user is gone, so the data was rolled back. Now we're looking at the test user 2 that isn't locked out, right? The lockout's false, no updates. We step over. We now have run our function. And so we look at this again, and we'll see now that they're locked out and there's an update. So we know that this will pass as well. So, and now it's going to roll back. And now we have working tests. So now we know that our function essentially is doing what it's supposed to. And granted, it's not a perfect unit test. It's a little bit more of like an integration test. But you can see here, that this test passed that we had for it, and we can check the same thing here as well, that this test passed. So that is the function pattern in a nutshell.
Nice. I know I like it. I'm not sure that I'd ever I'm trying to think of from the portal side if I'd ever use something like this, just because it does get a little messy when you have single use script includes, because normally for portal I'm building a heavy lifter, right, that does a lot of work, and I just don't see how I could get away with then I'd be calling multiple script includes where I'm trying to get away from that, right? I'm trying to centralize, but
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
I'm
I
trying.
think the function one is really like you have some one-off function. It doesn't belong in some util somewhere. Like you just
Right.
create a function pattern.
Yeah.
So that would be the route that I would go. We'll talk about other patterns in our next sessions about namespace and actually improving on this. So
Sure.
so we'll stay tuned for that one.
Nice. No, I like that. Um, yeah. No, this was great. Uh, I like this shorter format.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
now someone can just grab it and look at it and be done real quick, and not have to spend an hour listening to us jibber jabber.
yeah, totally. No, I agree. So I hope people find it useful. We'll go over
Yeah.
future patterns in the next one, and hopefully this helps somebody in designing the architecture and then being able to test it with ATFs.
No, I agree. I like going through the ATFs because I don't ever use those, but it's interesting how far they've come because I remember like way back ATFs were really tricky to get them working and there was a lot of issues.
Mhm.
So I'm glad to see that they're making progress with the updates on that.
Yeah, I think the breakpoints and the debug definitely actually bring it to the next level. Before it
Yeah,
was like you'd have to rush to figure it out, add a bunch of sleeps in there, and it was just really painful. Now we're actually in a really good state with
nice.
running ATFs for server-side unit testing. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely. No, that's great. Well, great.
cool.
This is this has
Yeah,
been our
if you like this content, let us know. Subscribe,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
reach out to us, and we'll keep doing some. So
yeah. We're always looking for new topics.
yeah, yeah. If you like our Firkin topics, we'll continue to do it.
Yes, the Firkin topics.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.